Labour have announced that they will restrict arms sales to Israel. The UK is expected to introduce restrictions on arms sales to Israel. Well-informed sources within the Labour Party told Middle East Eye that in the coming days, the government is likely to introduce some restrictions on arms sales, but not suspend sales entirely. The announced restrictions are likely to be on the sale of offensive weapons. The Foreign Secretary told MPs last week that given the attacks by the Houthis, Hezbollah and Hamas on Israel, it would not be right to have a blanket ban between our countries. Some of the headlines sounded a bit more positive than what the policy actually suggests. I mean, it is a positive step, I guess, but what difference does it make? I mean, this isn't outright banning arms, which they should, but they say they won't sell offensive weapons. Now, to me, that sounds like a huge loophole. I mean, Israel says everything they are doing, everything they have done is in the name of defense, which is patently not true. So I wonder how they will differentiate between the two. I mean, Lewis, what's your assessment of this? I mean, does this make any material difference? Is this just words? I mean, it makes them sound like they're doing something without really doing anything at all.
Yeah, pretty much. They could be going further. They could be lobbying other countries to do the same. I know that if I was a party to giving weapons to a country which were committing crimes and which has been certified to be doing so now, that I would be, asking all of my neighbours to do the same. But hey ho, that's another argument. The idea of like some weapons being used for defence only is just blatantly ridiculous. I think the only possible exception maybe would be the Iron Dome, but we don't supply that. But any other instrument of war can be used for both offense and defense. And I don't think there's really any way to properly track what is being used for them. Obviously, we supply, I think, jets to Israel. We supply lots of pieces of equipment. And it's like, how do they actually really know where that's going? We supply lots of engineering. They say that they can track these things, but I don't truly trust and believe that they can. I think the safest option right now, to make sure you're not being complicit in a viable genocide of a country which has just been found guilty again of occupying the Palestinian territories, that maybe just to be sure, let's just pause everything. I think that would be the safest option in this circumstance, just to make sure, you're not actually complicit in these crimes too. But again, they're not doing that. This is what I was talking about earlier, how they could be proactive and go further. They could have announced this earlier. They could have announced legal advice that David Cameron received when he was getting grilled by Alicia Kearns on that panel from months and months ago. He says the excuse is that, that was government advice that was released just to them. Bullshit. That is on record. There's no way that there is legal advice that has been given to the government, which is then only restricted to the previous government. It's absolute lies. They could have done so much more in this instance. And I still want to see what that legal advice said to David Cameron. And David Cameron was the one who said he couldn't even say if the Palestinian territories were occupied in that meeting.
Yeah,
but
this is
ridiculous.
it's political speak, though, isn't it? Because when you say, we will supply weapons only for, defensive purposes, or sorry, we're going to ban them only for offensive purposes. But, I mean, how do you legally distinct between them, really? Yeah. I mean, like I said, Netanyahu could say, we're using it for this and then use it for something else. So I was quite excited when I initially heard that they were going to announce they were going to ban arms sales, but that's not what they're doing. They're banning certain guns and arms. So it's a restriction, not a blanket ban, which to me is effectively nothing. Now, I want to ask you about LFI, Labour Friends of Israel, because they made a statement earlier. They've backed Labour to the hills. I mean, many of Starmer's cabinet are members of it. Of course, the first story we covered was the ICC, but the arrest warrant and arms sales kind of work hand in hand. I mean, do you think there could be some big implications from this? I mean, Starmer for years has been utterly appalling on Israel-Palestine. He certainly is still, I think, a supporter of Zionism. But do you think this kind of makes him a marked man? I mean, maybe those who are even more ideologically to the right of him in the party might get some ideas. I mean, if LFI are gunning for Keir Starmer, maybe he doesn't even make a full term. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I did, send you a little snippet of something earlier. I don't think it's worth going into too much detail, but I think it's worth noting that it's been reported by the Times that Luke Akehurst is already organising behind the scenes.
Yeah.
He's already got a WhatsApp group with apparently up to 150 MPs in it, and creating their own little mini caucus. And we know for a fact that Luke Akehurst was involved in getting rid of Jeremy Corbyn. And he's obviously, when he was a member of the NEC, I don't even know how that even works now. Apparently, actually, no, I'm not going to deviate. I deviate too much. He's obviously going to use power and he's going to leverage it because that's what he's obviously good at doing. If I could give him any credit, that he's obviously very good at what he does. And continuing with that, it is a shame that so many people, I think, in the Labour Party are within is it classed as a caucus? I don't even know. The Labour Friends of Israel. I feel like, within the current circumstances, part of the reason why Jess Phillips was constantly targeted, I remember in the videos that were posted, was because she was a member of Labour Friends of Israel at the same time calling for a ceasefire. It almost seemed like this juxtaposition that it's like, oh yeah, ceasefire, but I'm still in this organisation which is directly funded by different groups from the state of Israel. And ultimately, the Labour Friends of Israel group, regardless of how more quote unquote progressive it is versus like the Conservative Friends of Israel or APAC, at the end of the day, it is still an Israeli funded organization whose ultimate goal is to, achieve the goals of the state of Israel and its groups. So I just feel like anybody who is still a member of that group should be thinking about their position in there, especially with the recent ICJ ruling and the upcoming ICC arrest warrants.
But it kind of begs the question. I mean, obviously, Keir Starmer is in power because I think, he obviously lied a lot about a lot of things. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that he's really, really pro-Palestine and he lied to get where he was. But I think it does tell you that, can you really be a strong politician on Palestine and really win? We've seen that if you're someone like Jeremy Corbyn, who's pretty open about his position, and he was attacked from all corners, right? He wasn't just attacked for his position on Israel. He was attacked from the billionaire press because he wanted to, tax these people. That makes sense to attack him because, of course, they were going to lose out on his economic policies. But there are, of course, many people who support Israel in the media. You have LFI, you have the BOD, even JLM attacking Jeremy Corbyn. And now we've got Keir Starmer, who's kind of played by the rules, shall we say, has not been offensive in what these people think. And now he's just doing the bare minimum, which for us to isn't enough. He's doing the bare minimum, and yet now he's getting people like LFI, who, again, largely supported Keir Starmer. Many people in his cabinet have been gifted trips to Israel, are now kind of turning on him. So does that tell us that you can't ever really win if you take a strong stance against Israel? Again, it's not always just Israel. I think the US is a very big player in this, of course. But does that tell us, if you're a lefty, if you're someone who wants to become prime minister or be a significant figure in the Labour Party, that you just can't be pro-Palestine?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we need to get, I'm just going to drag his name through the mud again because I just enjoy it so much because he's such a horrible person. But again, I think Luke Akehurst is actually very present in all of this because we need to think about all the new Labour MPs were chosen effectively by the NEC. And guess who's in the NEC? Luke Akehurst. If he has enough power to parachute himself into a seat, he's obviously had a very good choice picking of who all these new Labour MPs are. So obviously, time will tell. But this WhatsApp group that he's obviously created, again, I can almost guarantee that they're mostly people that he probably helped get into power. And this is what Keir Starmer needs to watch out for, because I can guarantee that certain people behind the scenes in LFI are obviously probably not very happy with his stance, perhaps. But obviously, it would be unpopular and unwise to do anything about it yet or make any moves. But maybe, it could be a year down the line, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, where they do start making moves, where they get more comfortable and they start leveraging the power that they have. It obviously, time again will tell. And hopefully, all I can hope for is that there's some really good secret lefties that have been selected, and people again are playing the careful game of not necessarily going too far against Israel when in actual fact they're, supportive of Palestinians, which is the argument that people have made for Keir Starmer, in the sense of, I was talking about this earlier, like, is it possible that he has actually just been playing this game and he's just being very careful? I'm still on the fence with that, but if he gets too aggressive, which I would love for him to do, I'd be very interested to find out how the newer members of the Labour Party, including Luke Hickhurst, might react to that.
I mean, for me personally, I still am very much Keir Starmer's on the pro-Israel side, but I think the broader point here is that even if you slightly go against Israel, you're going to be criticized, and that's very unhealthy for a democracy. It's really, really worrying. But what's funny, though, is that I predicted this, many people predicted this, not just on the case of Israel, that any foot or any wrong step from Keir Starmer, there's going to be people who are more wedded to right-wing politics. And by the way, there are people who are more wedded to right-wing politics than Keir Starmer behind him, like the people in Labour Together, like Wes Streeting, like Rachel Reeves. I think they're the two picks for them. They will oust Keir Starmer. I guess I'm surprised that there's been rumblings against him already. I don't think anything is happening, by the way. I don't think any serious challenge. But it's just funny to see that these political factions who are largely on the side of Keir Starmer are now starting to criticise him. And that once Keir Starmer is not seen as useful by these people, they will put in someone who was is way more right-wing, who's more committed to austerity, more committed to hawkish foreign policy. Again, it's not just about Israel, but it's quite funny to see that, he's getting attacked from his own side, quote unquote, on the issue of Israel.
I was just going to say, it's also worth obviously noting that, in terms of foreign policy and how the world is now viewing Israel, they have been weakened. Their global presence has been weakened. Yeah. We've just had sanctions from Australia and a few other countries I can't remember off the top of my head. There's going to be more moves against them, especially when those warrants come out. So perhaps, just maybe, that the Israeli grip on our government and on the US government will weaken, perhaps, and maybe it will stop those groups from being able to make moves, because they won't necessarily have any legs to stand on if the bloody Prime Minister of Israel has literally got an arrest warrant out for him, especially on top of the ICJ ruling too. So maybe they've been weakened, maybe their nose has been blooded. Is it enough? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm excited to say that Turn Left has significantly grown this year, and with that, we've managed to produce far more ambitious content, interviewing high-profile people. We did a 12-hour live election show. There are multiple people behind Turn Left, but we are still working around our full-time work. But we would love it if this was our full-time. It means we could dedicate so much more and to bring even more ambitious content. So if you've been here from the beginning, or you've only recently become a viewer, if you like what we do, then you can help us out. Please like and share this video. Make sure you drop a comment. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your feedback. And we desperately need more independent media. If you want to see a socialist media alternative thrive, then you could be part of that. So if you can, you could support us on Patreon for £3 or £5 per month, or any one-off donation. We can use that money to upgrade our equipment, to rent out a proper studio, and to start paying ourselves. This is only the beginning. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Patreon.com, Turn Left Media. Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you, Turn Left.